Yeah, and we're live. Catch up, catch pole, back in the kitchen. I've got the kettle and the teapot, but we're doing kitchen stuff. I feel like totally in my element. Although not dealing with the tech stuff. When I get to the food, then you'll see me in my element. We're going to do some culinary kung fu, but primarily talking about seasonal techniques to deal with sugar cravings. I've recently come off caffeine, which I realize has been a massive crutch in my life for such a long time. When I first heard the health benefits of coffee, I went all in. I was like, oh my God, when I was a raw vegan, coffee was my guilty pleasure once in a while. And then the meta studies say there's a better correlation with, this is with moderate coffee consumption, with better health outcomes, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, some cancers, just so many things seem to be better if you have a coffee intake, probably to do with the polyphenols, a great food source for your microbiome. In the United States, the number one intake of polyphenols, which is a gut bug food for your gut bugs, is coffee. So coffee has its place, but it also is it's psychotropic, man. It's a psychoactive substance. Not many more powerful on the planet. Not many more consumed on the planet than coffee. Everyone is caffeinated, and it's been a revelation, a little bit of hard work, another revelation, and then a little bit of dowdiness over this last 6 days when I've just come off caffeine. So it's 7 days now. And that was preluded with probably 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 months of trying to get off coffee because I knew I wanted to see my baseline. I just couldn't do it because I'm such a caffeinated, highly, whatever the word is. Anyway, without caffeine, you get to see the world slightly differently. Anyway, enough of the chat. We're going to do a seasonal soup today. So we're doing the roasted vegetables, and I wanted to kind of introduce the horse stance. So when you're in the kitchen, you can do your culinary kung fu. I've been talking a lot about squatting and shaking and just standing, and you can really pay attention to that while you're in the kitchen. So we'll do one thing at a time. I've got loads of herbs in my garden, and I do pick them quite heavy in autumn because I know they're going to like go all dark and brown and not so nice, and then they'll come again in spring. So my rosemary, not so much, that goes through the winter quite well, but like things like basil, definitely going to lose that in the winter. Sage really goes back to like a shell of itself and then comes again in spring, and the same is with mint. So I pick my herbs quite heavy at this time of year, just because then I can pick all the healthy, delicious tops of the mint. And then I put my little jobby in here. And I get a mint tea, because I know I'm going to need to sip something while doing this video. So I get the mint tea in there. I've picked the rosemary, that's going to be a garnish for the vegetables. And then we're going to do some culinary kung fu. So sugar cravings, it sounds crazy. I wouldn't normally advocate eating heavy on because they're so sugar heavy. There was a time raw vegan where I didn't eat any vegetables for a really long time. So I'm going to keep the skin on the butternut squash. It was a whopper. You can see twice that size. I've already done one dish with it. But there's some blemishes. I'm just going to cut them off. And the rest is going to get stuck in. Take the seeds out. I'm going to do everything in finger sizes. So things will cook at different times. Obviously, a courgette, which I just had left over, need to use it up. I'm going to bung it in. I'm going to put that in the roast later because obviously a beetroot or sweet potato, harder vegetables are going to take longer to cook. But we want different fiber structures. So sometimes, if I have time and can be bothered, I put different vegetables in, or put the same vegetable in rather, at different times. So you get a different fiber structure when it's cooked. So something that goes in earlier would have been cooked longer, might be a little bit more char, might have much more flavor and enjoyment for you. It's going to be softer and sweeter. Compared to the same vegetable, I might put in 3, 4, 5 minutes later. It's going to have more crunch, it's going to have more bite, it's going to give more texture to the dish, but it's going to give you, more importantly, more fibers for your gut bugs to enjoy. I'm going to move my garnishes out of the way, otherwise they're going to get all sorts of bits and pieces from the leftovers. see what have you. Okay, so yeah, I am going to link it back to a horse stance. Become very aware of your stance in the kitchen. This is a really nice way to do that micro practice while cooking. So by the time the food comes, your legs would have had a proper workout. So standing in horse stance means you're standing low, keeping your spine as straight as possible and not putting your knees under any pressure. So your knees never go in front of your feet. So when you look down, you want to always be able to see the tips of your toes. That way, this part of your body, your thighs, your iliac psoas, your psoas muscle that come up in through your pelvis, are going to be doing all the work to support you. They're going to be working hard, increasing blood flow. You're doing a workout while you're cooking. 2 birds, 1 stone. Okay, so I'm not going to do a massive amount of roast vegetables because that'll just bore, you'll get bored watching me chop it. That shouldn't be on still. Let's turn him off. Yeah, I'm going to do different tips and tricks so you can see. So this is going to end up being a soup. I use the roast vegetables to dip in hummus, mayonnaise, and homemade tomato ketchup. These 3 things we will be looking at over the next couple of days. And very successfully use these things just for a snack. So look, if you want the chocolate cake, have the chocolate cake, but at least, is that someone turning up to watch? I can't see. At least have the vegetables first. And they're sweet, and they're so sweet, these root vegetables. I wouldn't normally recommend them, but as it comes to replacing an afternoon snack where it's going to be chocolate cake or a Yorkie, this is far superior. So I trick myself. Go on then, you can have the chocolate cake. All you have to do is have a few dips in the hummus. And then have the roast vegetables to hand, have a few dips, and then I'm satiated. I'm like, actually, I didn't need that chocolate cake. The sweet vegetables hit the spot. That might not be the case for everyone, but give it a try. So cut these to different sizes. And then I've pre-cooked and cooled some white potato. And like, if you follow anything I do, I didn't eat white potato for years. Didn't fit in my raw vegan diet. Didn't fit in my paleo diet. It is very high sugar. It releases sugar like white rice. But if you cool it, it increases resistant starch. So I've pre-cooked the potatoes and then cooled them to increase the resistant starch. I'm going to roast them now, obviously. They're going to be cooling by the time I eat them again. So each time you cool it, you increase further the resistant starch. So we're going to do, it's not going to be super colourful. So I bought a red onion because obviously it's so important to get more colours in. And I realise I've got very autumn colours, oranges. Besides the courgette, all these other vegetables are going to cook at a similar time. So I'm going to use butter or coconut oil as the oil, not olive oil. You don't want to cook with olive oil. Yes, butter or olive oil, and then I'm going to use rosemary. I'm going to garnish it with some black sesame seeds. I've got some powdered. You don't have to have these things. Just ad lib, make it up. I'm going to put these seasonings on just to give a bit more flavor to the finished product. So I've got some dehydrated powdered nettle. That is phenomenally healthy, and it adds a real flavor. So you get a real kind of crispiness from the seeds. I've got some chia seeds and some flax seeds. These are great seeds. I use them quite a lot. And you don't go crazy. You just, when you've oiled the vegetables, when the butter or coconut oil is melted a little bit, you flip the vegetables all around and then add these garnishes so they stick evenly to all the vegetables, and it adds a real nice finish to the product, to the end roasted vegetables. So after having followed so many dietary protocols and been so strict and so disciplined and so rigorous with following certain diets, I have to say, what do I have to say? I'm not sure what I have to say. I have to say what really stands out to me is this. This is my thing. And I'm so proud and pleased to have my thing, because previously with all the diets, I'm riding on the shoulders, or the back rather, of different people. Oh, right, that sounds great. Oh, this guy did this research, and a ketogenic does this, better oxygen, absorption of oxygen, Oh, it sounds fantastic. But I'm always riding on the back of other people's hearsay. And this is my own thing, and it's so simple, and it can become your thing very simply. It's to eat fresh vegetables. And this is going to really maybe be controversial, but it's the truth. And it doesn't, organic where possible. If my products are all organic, if I do workshops, I go all organic. But for me and my family, if I can't afford things, it's more important you get the vegetables, you get the aroma, the crunch of the fresh vegetables. This has got life force. If you leave this on the counter, it will transform. It's something in it. You know, we won't get too technical, but the photons, the particles, the eternal particle, there's some life force in here in all these vegetables, you know, especially the herbs. So if you can't afford organic, don't panic. Just make sure it's fresh. You know, I've got a tomato here for my mum's allotment. I grow as many things as I can. I forage as many things as I can. That's all super cheap. As far as preferences for organic, yeah, if you can afford it, good for you, do it. It's good for the environment. You get less chemicals and pesticides. It's good for you. But for me, the primary thing is to have the freshness of something grown locally, seasonally, because then you get to interact with this inanimate, eternal energy. It sounds pretty crazy. I'll keep talking about it over and again as I'm doing the cooking. Probably not today. You've probably had enough of it today. But it's just a crazy concept. But there's something about that life force. And when I first went raw vegan, it was on the back of some very vibrant people meeting me, talking to me about how important it is to eat food that is close to the sun's energy. You don't want to eat things, you know, that are separated from the sun. You know, the cow is eating the grass. Hey, look, we can't eat the grass. You can juice it. But you want to eat fruits and vegetables that are as close to the sun's energy as possible. You want to capture that photon, that sun's energy into your being. And hearing that coming from some really vibrant beings, I was like, right, I'm all in. Let's just go raw vegan. And I did. And things started to change when my now fiance, then girlfriend, fell pregnant. I then went, obviously we're going to bring our kid up raw vegan. Thought it'd be super simple. You know, you really want to dig in. You really know what you're doing. You've got the responsibility of a young one coming into the world. It's just obvious. It's going to be eating as close to the sun's energy. That's my whole philosophy on the diet. And then I said, it's cool. I'll just pull up some cultures that are ahead of their time and that have fed their kids raw vegan for God knows how many generations. Let's see what they must be thriving, these cultures. There must be loads of them. And their kids must be super healthy. But there's no vegan cultures. I just couldn't find any. You know, Indian culture, long generationally vegetarian, but they have a lot of cow, a lot of butter. Don't eat the cow, but they have a lot of cow for the butter and the cream and the lassi. But no culture I could find historically brought their kids up vegan. So it's an experiment. And I think in life we need to make plenty of experiments. But you got to weigh up the risk and reward. Did I want to make my kids vegan when I couldn't find a second, third, fourth generation vegan whose parent? It just didn't add up. So that was the time when I really started to question. Sourcing was always and has always been really important to me. The quality of the animal products are so important. Factory farming is an absolute no-no, but including animal products is a totally different kettle of fish to factory farming and just saying I don't have any animal products, because there's certain components, you know, A, D, K, and E are all fat soluble nutrients. You can eat as many as you want, but if you haven't got the quality fats, and it's hard to get quality fats on a vegan diet, especially in this country. Yes, I had lots of coconut. Yes, I had lots of avocado. But what's the carbon footprint of that? Okay, anyway, I've diverted a little bit. We're just chopping the vegetables. So roasting the vegetables sets a really nice kind of glaze. You don't want to char them, but it just gets that kind of crispy flavor. And it's most exemplified in a parsnip, because that just becomes even sweeter and it has the little bits that touch the edge of the pan and crisp up a little bit. Just really tastes delicious. So that's for our benefit. We want to slow cook some of the other vegetables for the gut bugs benefit. So I'm not going to be able to cook it here. My insurance, you can't see it, but there's a massive oven down here. My insurance doesn't allow me to have gas in the kitchen. So I'm going to have to cook it at home. So you can imagine I put a knob of butter. I'm not going to do it now because I'm going to actually really cook these later. A knob of butter in a minute, I'd cut a knob of butter pop it in the middle and put it in the oven. When that all melted, I then mix it all around. When the vegetables were then all covered in butter, I am going to do this now because they're going to stick on anyway when I melt. I put on not too many, but enough black sesame seeds and my powdered nettle. You don't have to have powdered nettle. Oregano, thyme, marjoram, basil, all these herbs are readily available, dirt cheap. Just really add some extra flavor and obviously extra nutrition on. And then I go really crazy with the rosemary. Rosemary is the one herb, not the one herb, there's plenty of herbs, but it's what am I trying to say? It features a lot in blue zones. So everyone, me included, are obsessed with the olive oil that gets consumed in blue zones. Don't miss out the fact that rosemary is massively, massively consumed in a lot of the blue zones. So I just break all the rosemary up. And again, you probably don't want to cook this from the start. It'll end up getting really crispy. I've started this now, so I'll continue. But you often want to just add the rosemary 5 or 10 minutes in when I'm going to add the courgette, because the courgette can't go in with all these other hard vegetables. Anyway, this all then goes in the oven. And when it comes out, it cools, or you can't help but try one when it's warm. So remember the horse stance, being aware of your alignment when you're prepping in the kitchen. You want your arms nice and relaxed and your legs, knees not going over the tiptoes of your toes, tippy toes, and just really sitting down. And that's really utilizing the whole area of your body, which I talk a lot about in the squatting and shaking micro practice. So when you're in the kitchen, you want to have that kind of bounce. You want to have that kind of spring. So it's going to not put any stress in your lower back. And you're going to get a free workout. Excuse me, I'll keep chomping on that carrot. You get a free workout while you're cooking. Excuse me. So I just noticed this really tiny, cute little carrot. It's going to take his end off. And he's going straight in. Olive oil is there. Best olive oil I know. And that's going to be put on liberally when they're cooked. I'm going to do a blue pizza. Here's one I prepared earlier. So I eat the vegetables. For me, that'll be a meal tonight. For the kids, I'll blend it to make a soup. They're much more inclined to go for that than eat the raw vegetable, not the raw, the roasted vegetables. Let me get here's one I prepared earlier. Fresh from the last batch of doing a blended soup. I don't know if you can get an angle. I don't want the soup to pour everywhere, but you can see I've just garnished it with my seeds, which is perfect. These soups are almost designed for this dish with the turmeric, coriander, cumin, and all those lovely spices on the activated seeds. Just make the whole thing act like croutons, really. Makes the whole thing much, much tastier. So the reason for doing this video is I want to do much more food-related things. I was only chopping vegetables, but hopefully that would be enough inspiration that people could maybe do it themselves. Like I say, I wouldn't expect most people to replace their afternoon snack, although I would recommend it. Replacing their afternoon snack with a roasted vegetable meze type thing with hummus and mayonnaise and tomato ketchup. These three things I mention a lot because they're the dips I make at home. They don't have any trans fats or any nasties in. You can make it yourself. And then they make the roast vegetables just delicious. So I've successfully replaced my afternoon slump by removing coffee, by removing the sugary things. So I'm feeling better. So obviously day 7, I'm starting to not need some fix me up in the afternoon because I had a fix me up the day before. You can kind of see it perpetuates itself. Coffee is the best healer of drinking too much coffee the day before. So the cycle continues and it's really hard to get off the merry-go-round or the rabbit wheel, the hamster wheel. But it is worth it. Yeah, so the roast vegetables then can get turned into a soup. So it's then a meal for a few days. So I know, say, if you're going to be in the kitchen, you're going to prep plenty. So the next day, you've got things to hand. So you're not going to be caught out craving a Yorkie or craving the chocolate cake. Have things ready. Okay. I have so much in my head. I think these videos are going to be fantastic. And when it actually comes to it, it's like, it's just chopping vegetables. It's not that good. So I just need to work on my communication skills. I might even sprinkle a few chia seeds on here as well. They'll definitely stick to the slightly more moist vegetables, the slightly wetter ones, the cooked potato and such like. And obviously with the melted butter, they'll then stick to the vegetables. And when they're cool, they'll just add a really delicious crunch. It's a really great fiber source to add in. They'll obviously get blended into the soup, so the kids end up eating that as well. Yeah, I think people can ask questions. I don't know if anyone's watching. I'm doing it on a third platform StreamYard thing. So if you have any questions, please ask. I'm going to start doing more workshops because the group collective, I'm going to do like a Monday intention for the week where we can have a closed group. We get together and you just put down your intentions. It's incredible how many intentions you miss if you don't write them down or have them to aim at. It's incredible. You just never hit them. But it's amazing how many you can actually be successful at achieving. If you just write them down, have an accountability buddy, have a group to kind of inspire you, set the intention for the week. And then on the Friday, I'll do a closed group and I'll have the wins for the week. And that makes you feel great for the week. Because I'm sure, for the weekend ahead rather, because the wins for the week is celebrating your successes. And regardless of how many Yorkies and how much chocolate cake you had, I can guarantee we can find you some successes. So this is my new thing. I do the workshops. I'm going to do the workshops as a course because there's so much content. Trying to fit it all into one workshop is crazy. There's 5 things you can do to improve your gut health. 1 is movement, the squatting, the standing, the shaking, opening up, relaxing and releasing this whole part of your body for better evacuation. Also, if you've got more movement here, when the good food goes in, you get better assimilation. So it's increasing evacuation and assimilation. Number 2 is, I put myself on the spot here, and I haven't got them written down, so I know them well. So number 1 is movement. Number 2 is documentation. So that's a big part. We'll probably have another closed group where we can look at how to write stuff down, part of the intention. And it gives you the reference point of when you have your sugar crash or your afternoon. And no wonder I felt bad yesterday in the afternoon. Look what I ate at lunch. And it's almost like, well, I didn't need to write that down to be aware of that. But you kind of, people, everyone, myself especially, has got so much going on with family and tidying and business and, mushroom foraging and all this other good stuff. You just miss the really simple things, but having it right in front of you, you can't fail to miss it. So documentation has to have a positive outcome, otherwise it's not sustainable. But you need to write things down to become aware and draw connections to certain eating habits that then lead to other eating habits. Like I say, coffee begets coffee, doesn't it? You have a coffee one day, you feel fantastic, but then the next day, to get back to that same level, you need to have more coffee. And the same is with sugar. And I found that out the hard way by giving up coffee and going, oh, right, this is why everyone loves sugar. I used to replace sugar with caffeine. I'm not saying that's healthier. I think a balance somewhere in betwixt is somewhere good. But cutting out coffee, I wanted to pep my energy up, didn't have caffeine, I looked to sugar. So it's then been a journey of kind of replacing the sugars for better sugars with root vegetables. And then number 3 is mindset. Well, it's set really, isn't it? Yeah, mindset. So it's mindset and preparation. So if you've got the root vegetables, if you've got other snacks, homemade things to hand, and with writing things down, and with intentions from Monday, when someone offers you a Snickers, before, I don't know why I brought Snickers up, it just kind of came. Before, I would have given myself a very intricate explanation of why I can justify eating a Snickers, because tomorrow I'll start the diet because it'll make you feel good and everyone wants to feel good. There's all these different reasons that if you give them a loudspeaker, the part of your being that will really enjoy the Snickers will say, come on, mate, in your own voice, which is why it's so convincing, eat the Snickers, it's going to feel good. And often that is enough, anyway, for me to then start eating the Snickers. On the other hand, if I've got the intention, if I've got the preparation, if I've got the accountability coming up later with the coach or your friend or whoever, you can silence, you haven't had it, be quiet. I've got this to hand. And then you can offer your friend something healthy and say, oh, I'm not eating that at the minute. Make it a thing. But if you're prepared to not allow those little, gremlin voices inside your head to go on, have the Mars bar, whatever. We're just ad-libbing with different chocolates at the minute. Have it. You haven't had one for years. You're doing really well. You deserve it. You can come up with 101 different explanations which make you feel like, oh, I could just eat it. And you end up eating it. So mindset, be prepared, have snacks in your hand. I've got a story where I have a belt with my drinking flask, caffeinated drinks, obviously, and other snacks I could click into my belt. And then if anyone offered me anything, I didn't even allow the seed to settle before I was like, no, thanks. Would you like one of mine? and it just really helps things flow. Number 4 is cut the crap. Processed food isn't only not good for you, it's actually bad for you. A lot of the processed foods are really detrimental to your gut microbiome. So you really want to cut out it's processed foods. I'm not an angel. All these things I say, all the videos I jump on, I don't do it 100% myself. This little caricature I present on the videos isn't Alex every day. Like I said, when I started to document, Yorkies popped in, chocolate cake popped in. I don't ever mention that before, but that's my intention. I've got, that's my North Star. That's my moonshot. I'm aiming to be great in all these areas. Whether I am, that's another thing to talk about at another time. But you've got to have that intention. You've got to have that North Star to aim at. Because if you're not aiming, you're definitely not going to be going in that direction. So yeah, cut processed food as much as possible. I'm not trying to say, don't join the course, don't join because you eat a lot of processed food. The intention for people doing this 5 things to better gut health is they just take one step in the right direction to improve. And that might be cutting out 1 Yorkie of the 3 they have every day. For me, it doesn't matter. There's no judgment here. I know some incredibly beautiful, kind-hearted, lovely beings I just love hanging out with have atrocious diets. There's so many different variables. Long-lived people, no health concerns, have atrocious diets, and they're fine. It's not as clear and as cut as it's all about the food you eat. No, it's about relationships. It's about relationship to yourself, your friends, your family, your loved ones, how much you get out in nature, how fulfilled you are in life. So you might have a perfect diet, but you might have a shit relationship. You might have no fulfillment out of life, and you might have a really bad circadian rhythms, in which case you need to ease back on eating a perfect diet and pay attention to these other variables, because all of them interplay into what we call today as healthy, vibrant being. And then number 5 is every day, every meal, every mouthful, you want to feed the microbiome. So you can add the sprinkles to any meal. I'm going to add more. I've added some sprinkles already, but when it's cooked, I'll add more of the prebiotic, probiotic sprinkles to the vegetables. I'll be dipping them in hummus and different things. Again, sauerkraut, you can add sauerkraut as a garnish. Just add things in to the meal you're already having just to improve your microbiome diversity. The more food and the more fibers you feed them, the more the beneficial microbes are going to thrive and proliferate and crave more. When you're feeding sugar, they want more sugar and more sugar. And every time you have a thought of what I can eat next, they're going, sugar, sugar, sugar. And you've got to fight this battle of going, well, they need sugar. It's so tempting to have sugar because it's a quick energy fix. And you're in this really tricky place. As soon as your gut microbiome are craving more information, more photons, more eternal particle energy, more natural food is what I'm trying to say in a weird vernacular, but more natural food. You want the microbiome, feed them natural fibers, they'll crave more natural fibers. Your intention is to eat more natural food. They'll be wanting more natural food. You'll have the accountability and the support of the group. You'll want more natural food. The only outcome is that you will end up eating more natural food. And that really is, for me, the aim of the game. Because the more natural food you eat, the more diverse array of microbes that will then bestow health upon you. Okay, my mint tea will be ready to drink. I hope that all makes sense. It's obviously a work in progress, but you can see when I'm around food, it brings something good, some passion out of me. So I'm going to work around food more. I do already, but aside, I put my products to one side, I'm going to do more kind of seasonal, local vegetable medleys as we have one today. Okay, thanks so much. Please comment, share. Mostly comment rather than share. I'd love feedback. If you've made it this long, good on you. Thanks so much. Yeah, that's it. Over and out. Thanks so much. I don't know. Oh, it's not ended yet.